Hey guys, how's it going? Grandmaster, and welcome back to another episode of Cards and Castles 2 in the Hidden Combos territory, where today I've finally come to put together the long-awaited Headwood Genesis. I've been messing around with this deck for a while. I've kind of been teasing, just getting it made. But as for moments I'll explain later, it was a bit more of a challenge than I thought it was going to be. And that's okay, because thankfully we have everything that we need together to bring this to you now. And I hope you guys do enjoy what we have lined up. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at the deck and give you guys a bit more of a backstory behind what the hell happened here. Alright, so here is our deck list. This is the Genesis Headwood, or I don't know, I haven't really given this thing a fun name yet. I was thinking of Fire University, because the idea is multiple professors and naming aside. The idea is pretty straightforward. Line up Headwood, multiply him with the Genesis card, and be able to carry a lot of discard mechanics to just simply trigger Headwood multiple times over. Headwood is quite a slept-on card, dealing random damage effects to any enemy, including the castle, but Headwood is not necessarily the most consistent. Discard outlets are pretty hard to find, and Headwood kind of just becomes an instant removal magnet when he's thrown on the field these days. There's a lot of people packing a lot of removal, and I think enough people have been hit by Headwood enough to kind of just gun it for him when he hits the board. So rightly so, there is some panic behind seeing a Professor Headwood and the shenanigans he can get up to, because we've also been seeing him in Pirates, being able to use Darksea Summoner or Fisherman Tom to proc multiple discards and thereby multiple effects of Headwoods, upwards of at least 3 times with the Darksea Summoner, perhaps even more with Fisherman Tom, because Fisherman Tom has a crazy discard outlet. You could draw maybe up to 8 cards and discard all 8 of them, allowing 8 procs of Headwood. And that's great. That would be fantastic, but that's only a one-time burst. Usually Fisherman Tom, unless sort of bounced or replaced, which is kind of hard to do when you're already limited to Warlock and Pirate, you're kind of left with just one output, one burst of damage off of Headwood, and you're not going to really see... I mean, depending on how much is on the board, you might not even see a lot of damage on the castle. That's just how it is. So, the idea behind the Genesis Headwood is to have a more consistent and multiple procs of multiple Headwoods. The Infernal Furnace, of course, is a great discard outlet. Being able to discard fire spells and gain 2 warlock cards. Sometimes those warlock cards can often be more fire spells to feed back into the system, creating this sort of infinite discard outlet for you, which again is fantastic. And then thereby the multiple Headwoods would proc multiple times over throughout different turns to give you a more consistent just output of damage going wherever it might be. And by the time you ideally clear the board, Headwood would have nowhere left to go but to just hit castle. So that is the idea in concept, in practice. However, the deck has been quite a challenge to actually replicate that ability. Like I said before, Headwood kind of has been more of a removal magnet these days. Anything that can come out against it, Forest Revolt, Maiwa, Exploit Weakness, Paladin, Dark Matter, I've run into it all. But when playing this deck, which is a shame, because I'm trying to show you guys how it works, and all of a sudden my ideal combo gets shut down. That doesn't mean to say this deck doesn't win, though. This deck does win even without the Headwood strategy, despite the star of the show not being present. The Infernal Furnace can provide a strong infinite engine of just random warlock cards, some of which are just powerful on their own. I mean, going through the lineup here of warlock cards: Final Flashes, Eye of Flames, Lava Giants, Chaotic Storm, Strange Magicians for even more spells. There's a whole variety of cards you can pull off the Furnace, which can help you win even without Headwood. And, of course, you have some other big, crazy cards in here, like Shiva, Grendel, Zeus to hit hard. And Genesis, too, even. Genesis, being the copy card that it is, can also steal things. I think people have kind of slept on the fact that Genesis can copy your opponent's cards and create duplicates of their own units for you, depending on if you're facing maybe a big board threat like a, big Samson or Holy Avenger or anything else like that. Having Genesis on hand for those threats can also be a great way to kind of turn the game around in an instant and kind of force them to adapt to their own game plan by you stealing their big fancy cards. So there are still, again, ways to push out the victory and just keep climbing. Although, is this deck great in the meta game? Before we go any further with that, it might not be. Honestly, this is a more casual, fun-like deck. It's something that you want to try if you're looking for something new. It's not super meta relevant. I mean, it's, you can see here the weakness to aggro is quite prevalent, even though we're running cards like Acolyte, Flame Prince, and Imp to kind of give us some kind of early presence. Sometimes we get shut down hard by our aggro combos, and we can't get our big fancy Headwood to make the plays we want to. Although we do have Forest Revolt, which Forest Revolt is a fantastic card on its own to shut things down, or to shut down aggro, that is, so you get that in there. Overall, though, is it the strongest deck? No, not necessarily, but is it fun? Absolutely, especially when you can pull off some kind of fun Genesis stuff and really get things going on the board. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and show you guys what we're running here to kind of break down the deck in some of its more individual pieces. So I got the lineup here. We've got the Burnout, a great combo tool with Revolt to generate a lot of fire spells to be either used by you to clear the enemy's units, or feed those into the Infernal Furnace and start getting your infinite Warlock card engine on, I guess if that's what we call it, the Infinite Furnace engine going. Like, that's pretty much the best I could put it there. We got Library of Hassan, being able to draw when we discard. We have a lot of discard outlets in this deck. We've got the Zealous Broom, Grendel, as well as the Furnace, so being able to discard too. It only keeps a fresh batch of cards in your hand. Note that you're going to be going through this deck a lot of the times. You're going to be... if you want to play it right, ideally you're going through most of your deck in a single game, and this library helps facilitate that. It kind of brings up those extra cards that you're not really seeing as often as in other games, because it's just a great draw tool. That's just what it is. Following that, we got the Mischievous Imp at 1 drop. I don't know why I said the cost. Adds a Warlock spell to your hand. It's pretty generic. Everyone who runs Warlock usually has this little bad boy tucked away to kind of give themselves some extra support. Plus, adding a Warlock spell could be a fire spell, feeding that into the Furnace engine again. So having that as a cool way to generate extra fire for us is always handy. Zealous Broom in here for its targeted discard. Targeted discard is something that we haven't really had in the game for a hot second, I believe. And with Zealous Broom now able to choose and discard Trick Wands from your hand, it allows Trick Wand to be a lot more viable. So Trick Wand and Zealous Broom are actually more so a pair than, say, the Grendel Trick Wand is. If you draw a Trick Wand, you could also just use it early as a 2-drop, deal 3 damage, kind of help clear the board. Nothing wrong with that, but of course it's always great when the Trick Wand can land on an opponent's castle and further that damage a bit more. Touch of Life at here for the healing, and the draw, again, kind of the idea that you want to be going through a lot of your deck to also find Headwood as well. That's, I think I forgot to mention that. You want to be able to find Headwood to actually bring out the Genesis combo, and Headwood being the one of, you do want to have a couple of draw outlets to kind of get to your card. So Touch of Life isn't here for that, and that's why I think Library is the main draw tool, because going around the line we don't really have a lot of other draws aside from Touch of Life and Hassan. Usually Hassan, though, once you start discarding and drawing, you'll just see the value in it. So yeah, that is where... Well, and then the Touch of Life is also just good for healing in general. Following that, I got the Acolyte, solid 3-drop, another card that people are universally running, being able to replace stuff with a new unit. Something that we feel like is very prevalent in today's game. You gotta be able to have cards that do that. That's why cards like Pegacorn and Acolyte are so prevalent that you see everywhere in the metagame. You just want things that can stick around for your next turn to do stuff with. So that's why Acolyte's sitting in here. Flame Prince to add fire spells to your hand. Again, kind of the same reason why Imp is in here. It's just a great card that'll also add you fire, which is, again, perfect for the Infernal Furnace, which you talked about is one of our main primary discard outlets. It's the one that can go infinite, so ideally you want to just keep feeding fire spells into it, trigger the Headwoods multiple times, and then get back more Warlock cards to use. And sometimes those, again, might even be fire spells, so hey, feeding that back into the furnace. Following that, Forest Revolt's universal druid inclusion these days, having the trees that just whack and charge and hit things is pretty important, especially to help clear out some early aggro or hit an important target like Headwood. Revolt is your card to go to. Alongside that as well, the Revolt burnout strategy has been very, very prevalent. Being able to sack in all 3 trees, then pop a burnout immediately on turn 5 allows you to get 3 fire spells, which again, I think I've oversimplified enough of the importance of having the fire spells. Following that, star of the show himself, Headwood, deals damage when you discard, and we're discarding a lot, so hence why he's here. Blaze as a, board clear or swarm clear, as well as the fire spell that can be put in for Furnace in case I feel like the matchup isn't strong enough for Blaze to come out. I might sack in the Blaze, get some more Warlock cards, and we might go from there to power up the Headwood. Next up, Grendel, another big discard outlet, discards 2 of the top cards in your deck. So, of course, it's going to proc over the Headwoods multiple times over. Each Headwood procs twice, and depending on how many you have in there, that could be a lot of damage coming the opponent's way. Genesis, again, the other star of the show, will go alongside copy the Headwood, but also copy anything else that you need or steal. Following that, you got the Zeus over here as the generic late game slot. I figured Zeus was going to be a great inclusion to deal with the bigger threats that maybe we don't have the means to deal with right away. If we don't have things like Genesis or Headwood burning, Zeus is going to be great to just get rid of those threats. Also, being able to deal 2 damage to random enemy units, again, that's just extra swarm counters, which could be also useful. In case you discard your Blaze, Zeus is there as a backup. And then finally, we have Shiva rounding out the set here. Shiva as our guardian, protector of the castle, as well as a maybe last sort of bit of damage that we need to get rid of the castle. Dealing 2 to all enemies is pretty prevalent. Of course, this hits everything on the board. Can even maybe get rid of that supply depot if you haven't done so already by the time that Shiva comes out, allowing you to guarantee your targets more, or guarantee that Headwood targets your opponent's castle more often than not. However, that is the entire deck after Shiva. I know, very sad. But yeah, let's go ahead and give you guys a quick preview of how the idea is supposed to work here. And I'll show you why this was such a long time video to make. It's just, the Headwood hate is unbelievable across the board these days. But let's go ahead and delay no further. Game number 1 coming at you right now. Alright, and so game number 1 here, we're going to take on Torres in the Ninja Vikings with not the worst hand, honestly. Touch of Life is good, the Flame Prince and the Acolyte do help. Shiva's kind of a bit of a dud, but no big deal per se. We're going to go ahead and summon the Peasant, turn 2, nothing to heal off with the Touch of Life here. Our opponent's going to go Blacksmith. Copy a random card. I think that's alright. That's pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead and go for the Flame Prince here to generate a free fire spell. See what we can pick up. Magic Landmine. Not the best pull, but still worth something here. I'm going to go for the Metal of Bravery is Torres yielding the Trapdoor Ninja, opting to play his trap into the fact that I have a Peasant on board. So we are going to take that opportunity here. Peasant's going to push up. Flame Prince not going to attack yet. Do trigger the Kabuki Mask, replacing the Blacksmith with a Kunai Master. I figured no big deal there. We'll be able to eliminate that with the Acolyte. Trade the Flame Prince into the Trapdoor Ninja because our 4 attack into the 4 HP just makes more sense than trading with Kunai Master. Kage going to come out here, pop our Acolyte, Banshee, and Kunai going to trade, leaving him just with the Kage. I go for the Magic Landmine here because I figured I don't really have a great other play right now, maybe Backdraft, but here, thankfully our opponent was a little greedy, wanted to kill off the Peasant before maybe returning the Kage. We pop Kage relatively easily, and he plays another Trapdoor Ninja, opting to not go for the trap because he knows he doesn't want to lose it like last time. I go for an early Touch of Life because I figured not much else I really could be doing at this point here. So we Peasant, Backdraft, play another Peasant. and pass it back to our opponent, who multi-strikes both of my peasants. Goes for a clean 3 with the Trapdoor Ninja, throws down that trap that he might have gotten from said ninja. Not entirely sure there. We draw the second Touch of Life. They're going to use that right away on the castle because our hand ain't looking the best. Go for the Forest Revolt here. Trigger the trap. It is going to be the Kabuki Mask once again. That yields a Beastmaster form. Thankfully, very easily cleared off by our 2 Trents. I leave one kind of awkwardly to do nothing because I was afraid that that might have been like a Bato Jutsu trap or something like that. So it is what it is. We go for a back, or he goes for a Kaiju. Kai Jr. per se, not destroying any buildings, but taking the full effect of the backdraft, leaving him at a 2-1. I go for the Mischievous Imp. I get a Dinosaur Nest. Say, place that Dinosaur Nest. Try to trade into the Kaiju to try and get rid of it, or at least proc the trap here. And I do yield a Stegosaurus, which is much worse than the 2-1 we were just staring down. Stegosaurus comes, hits me in the face for 2. Brynjolf comes out now. Of course, Brynjolf going to go ahead and push my imp all the way back here with that free charge hit. Can't hit the castle, mind you, thankfully, so not going to do that here. So I go for the Shiva on turn 9 to kind of just throw some defenses. I'm hoping that he has to forcibly trade in the Brynjolf, the Stegosaurus into this as well, but opts to go for a bit of a bolder play. Multi-strikes the Stegosaurus, giving more damage to the Shiva, so that way Stegosaurus can actually grow to a Savage Warlord. Very, very scary stuff, and opting to not hit in with Brynjolf. You'll understand why in a minute. Savage Warlord hits face. I go ahead and hit the Flare Shiva combo on turn 10 to just get rid of the Warlord. I do successfully get rid of it. Don't have to trade with it. Omaiwa going to go ahead and come out now and hit into everything. I'm surprised he actually did the Peasant before the Shiva, but maybe a miscalculation there. And then, of course, he Shadow Drakes his Brynjolf here after hitting my castle back into his. Crazy unused potential of Brynjolf is to force your opponent's castle directly onto your face. And at this point, I was a little nervous, but knowing that Taurus did not have a lot of cards, I figured this actually might work out pretty well. Just the Spirit Drake and the Wyvern Rider remain easy targets for Blaze. I go for the Headwood, seeing as how I can, in hand, Genesis into Broom and to deal damage. However, his last card, Hidden Intent, taking away my Headwood and turning it into a Wisp. I complained to him over the over the text chat. I was like, man, you had to get rid of the one card I was using for combo. God damn it. I Zealous Broom into Trick Wand to just deal some damage to get some assured last bits in there, and our opponent surrenders, not able to deal with the multiple incoming threats. So yeah, we do manage to pull off the win with this card, showing you guys how you didn't really need Headwood in that matchup to prove that you're ahead. But unfortunately, we did not get the Headwood combo in that game, and that's the frustrating thing. That's kind of why I told you, like in that scenario, the guy had a clear choice between the more damage with the Brontosaurus or the Headwood, but perhaps that, you know, he sees the Headwood as more of a threat. It's more of a threat than the Brontosaurus. That just is the card that's removed. Despite, again, me having the combo, it was right there. Anyways, we have more games to get to, guys. Let's not let this distract you from the rest of the action. Let's go ahead and get into game number 2 right now. Alright, in game number 2, we're going to be taking on Jayhawk here, or Lucky Jayhawk, going for the Ninja Pirate combo, so it seems. And, again, going to have a bit of a weirder start, but one that actually can work out. The double Forest Revolt is unnecessary, but Burnout plus Revolt help us get a bit of a foot in the door here to get some stuff generated for us. He goes for the Green Drake early on. I figure that's fine. We're not going to be doing a whole lot this early. So Green Drake plus the Dwarven Miner. Okay, that's fine. Pops the Peasant with the Green Drake, to be expected, honestly. As a result, I'm going to play the Acolyte here to block for the incoming cards. I assume that the Green Drake will hit face, which he does, and the Dwarf Miner will trade in with the Acolyte, which I don't think he actually does here. He kind of just moves away and doesn't want to get the trade in, which makes sense. Anyways, we're going to go ahead, Acolyte into that Dwarven Miner, getting rid of it, and then playing the Metal Bravery into the Forest Revolt here. I'd go for the Burnout Forest Revolt combo because I want to generate more cards early, and these cards being as small as they are and easily tradable allows us to get more of a head start on our opponent in terms of card advantage. As you can see there, crazy amount of cards, 4 cards in the Acolyte, plus the 4 trees, giving us a solid selection of burns, i.e. Firestorm and Flare multiple times over. But that's okay. I go for the wolf here to pop into the second dwarf and miner, go for the peasant trade, and actually did end up flaring one of, or the only peasant that he put on the board, because my hand was getting a little clogged. I wanted to keep drawing. So flare to kind of just to get rid of it and to give him less option to deal with the peasant, and it actually did pay off. It protected us from the Deadeye, killing off what could have been the wolf, even though we only have one unit. Regardless, Imp comes out, Peasant comes out, Imp adds us a trick one, great for that Zealous Broom we just pulled, and he plays King Kaiju. he plays a Kaiju, which is unfortunate, but in the wrong position. It kills off his own supply depot, unfortunately. And this gives us a great opportunity to use the Genesis that we have in hand to steal off his King Kaiju and make it work for us. I try to prevent Kaiju from moving in certain ways, as you can see here. He's going to go for the Behemothra draw, and meanwhile, big 7 connect into the castle from Kaiju. I figure that's okay. It's not the worst thing in the world. We'll take a little bit of damage here. We do have the Zeus after all. Zeus is going to eliminate that. Kaiju going to push up, kill off the Behemothra. Going to push in with the Imp and the Peasant here. A little 1-2 action, and then of course Hawk can go ahead and pass back to us. He goes for a Shiva, but at this point game is pretty much wrapped up in a bow. Imp and Peasant will hit into the Shiva. We go for the Flare, we go for the Blaze and the Firestorm, perfect amount to kill off the Shiva, and then of course more than 11 damage on board with the Kaiju and the Zeus, so we simply end it off there. Very effective, very straightforward to the point here, and that kind of shows how Genesis can be used to yoink your opponent's stuff and how that could be pretty detrimental to their own plans. Sometimes the deck won't be able to carry answers for their own stuff, so being able to steal that stuff and make it work for you can be a blessing in disguise. So overall, very solid performance here. Not a whole lot of discard stuff going on though in this matchup here, just wasn't in the card for this one, as you can see, but hey, still a good one for us nonetheless. And with that being said, folks, let's take you to game number 3 and show you what went down. Alright folks, in game number 3, we'll see us take on Pusha in the yellow-purple colors that we don't see too often, so it got me a little curious as to what we could be facing on the other side here. We're going to open up with a Mischievous Imp on turn 1, allowing us to play Chaotic Storm, which is fine. Turn 2, we get the free 1 hit on the Peasant, as well as the, or free hit on the castle, and we summon a Peasant. He's going to opt to Peasant in response as well. This is going to allow us to hit into the face a little bit here. Peasant pops in, kills each other there, a little bit of a peasant on peasant violence, and the Acolyte for turn 3. Push going to go ahead and coin here into the Forbidden City, resulting in 2 churches and a freezing pillar. I thought to myself, a little scary with 2 churches and the Crusader faction. Crusader's most likely carrying some heal stuff, so depending on the strategy Pusha could be using here, that could just be a lot of free value incoming to this board here, and I proved to be a little bit right there. Luminaris comes in, the Priest comes in for another 2 heal, and again, discounting cards in his hand further by at least 2. Either it was towards 1 card, multiple cards getting 1, what have you, but I know I have to shut this down. So we go ahead, hit the Blaze there, opening up one of those churches to die by the Flame Prince. Throws another Dwarf Paladin on the board here and replaces it with the Kunoichi to try and just get more healing value, more discount value, so to speak. I do pull the Chaotic Storm here to try and snipe off the Kunoichi just by 1 so we can get rid of the Imp. However, we do not get that. Instead, we go for the Imp. We summon a Villager Guard and just deal more damage to Castle, because I figured what else can we do at the moment here. Headwood sitting in our hand, but no discard outlet to use alongside him, so we're holding him close to the chest. Pusha, meanwhile, going to go ahead, heal with the Priest and the Paladin once again. So again, that church getting more and more discounts on various cards that are maybe sitting in his hand. And we're going to go ahead here for some combat trading, as the Paladin plus the Priest die out with the Forest Revolt. The Imp and the Guard move in, and with Burnout in hand, we are going to go ahead and use that. Burnout, of course, drawing in Baptism, Forge in the Fire, Fires of Creation ×2, and we backdraft our castle just to prepare for whatever's next. But I'm noticing our opponent does not have solid options to draw new cards. Stonemason hits the board now, going to go ahead and backdraft that, deleting it and dealing 2 more to Fate. He does get the building, though, off for Frost Halls, and plays his trump cards hidden in the walls here. 2 of them, mind you, because I think he knows that I'm getting a little too close for comfort, so he has to pop these rats now. Unfortunately for him, or fortunately for him, I should say, I'm not able to deal with these rats right about now. So instead I go for a Forge of the Fire to try and find something to help deal with it. I pulled double Storm Weapon, which I figured, alright, is great. We'll use this to try and just push more damage. And hopefully we can find some other burn spells or fire spells to just deal the remaining HP. Meanwhile, here, a lot of brats and peasants going to go ahead and hit the trade here. You see some of the brats working their way at the bottom there, kind of just hitting out the depot, hitting out the guard, killing the imp, I believe, as well. Yeah, they hit the imp. And then, of course, more rats just dealing damage and moving up here. Meanwhile, hasn't played anything for his 8 gold. For that, he opts to play, I believe, the Polar Bear, yet from the Hall of Frost, as well as the Peasant, just getting more bodies out to use. At this point, I do draw Genesis, which I think is a fantastic pull, but in the meantime, I put a Shiva up to protect ourselves a little bit here. I know if he decides to destroy the Shiva, a lot of his cards would die. Goes for a huge Realm of the Builder, though, at this point, with the double church, now having 4 churches online, plus another Freezing Pillar, but again, that was there for the Forbidden City. Having 4 churches is very, very scary here. Again, we know his deck has a lot of heal potential, so having these crazy discounts come into play, he could be saving it for something big. So at this point, I go for a Shiva kill on the back there, a Fires of Creation Sanctified to pull out 2 5 costs, and I pass it back. I'm unsure of what we could be seeing off these potential discounts and heal and all that. Thankfully for him, he decides to freeze my Polar Bear in a better position so my Shiva can't interact with his Frost Titan, which is fine. But at this point, I decided to go for a bit more of a setup here. I needed to pull off the combo, or at least wanted to get things set up. So I go for the Professor Headwood Genesis to allow multiple copies of him to exist on the board. And as you can see, next turn we have the Zealous Broom Trick Wand, plus the Grendel in the library to kind of deal with a huge discard draw type of blow here. So here we go. Go for the Library of Hassan. Shiva goes ahead, pops into one of these churches. Go for the Grendel, discarding, unfortunately, Zeus. But this is going to allow our Headwoods to kind of take action here, forcing back the Frost Titan, killing off a couple of the rats and peasants in the back. The guard going to go ahead, push into the church, getting rid of that to get some extra treasure, which you can actually use to justify playing Broom this turn as well. Trick Wand dealing damage, Baptism against the Polar Bear just to get rid of it here, and I think I'm in a great position. I've got Broom discarding next turn. I could keep drawing. Grendel's going to be huge as well, but however hits it with this dirty play. Holy Avenger, Final Strike. Of course, massively discounted over the course of this game by what I assume were those multiple heals and churches, which honestly was incredibly sad. The whole combo I had worked to pull off, which I hadn't hit for a while, I was bummed. I was bummed to say the least. But in retaliation, I destroy most of his war with Blaze, cap another Blaze with the Touch of Life here, pass it back to him. He finds its Frost Giant yet again. Brewery coming out to defend further, and a Peasant as well. I know that at this point, Push's Final Strike was probably his last big hurrah. So at this point, we're going to try and push in as best as we can. Sanctify Fires of Creation once again, just because I need some bodies here. And Witch Doctor's a huge one. Witch Doctor's going to allow us to get rid of that Frost Titan with relative ease. I'm surprised he didn't go for it here right away, though, because he plays Digger, he plays the Stonemason, and the Frost Titan did trade into the Flame Prince. I'm guessing it's because that if he were to hit the Witch Doctor, it would have just meant that the Flame Prince was left standing and he had no answers for it, so he needed to do that and force a lot more of this value into the rest of the board here. So Digger, Kunoichi, and I believe the Frost Titan all taken out here. Para going to pop the Church. I know what he can do with that, so we're going to destroy it. Infernal Furnace coming back out. He'll Stone Drake here to try and defend his castle. Grimthal the Dwarf King, but that doesn't matter. Game is pretty much set and done here as we receive the second Trick Wand. Go ahead and Blaze here, which activates the Stone Drake. That's fine. The Parrot, of course, will push in. Temple gets popped by the Peasant. Grimthal gets destroyed, and the Polar Bear delivers the final blow to the castle. And to be honest, this was probably one of the best performances that the deck had up to this point. Mainly because it pulled off the centerpiece combo of that Headwood Genesis. And honestly, I wish that combo could continue further and to show you guys how consistently oppressive having those multiple Headwoods on the board could be at the same time. But Unfortunately, the dude pulled out his own sort of sneaky link combo in the Avenger plus Final Strike. A very actually cool take on Final Strike, being able to sack all of the rats in, or at least having all the rats appear as a swarm, collectively perish, and then push the Avenger to deal some massive damage. That I think is pretty cool, pretty unique. Haven't seen anything like that. Maybe we'll want to try that myself, to be honest, but we'll get there when we get there. For now, though, that has been Game 3 of Genesis Headwood. I think that's going to be the point where we call the video. So, folks, let's go ahead and wrap up this edition of Hidden Combos. Alright, and here, of course, is the deck list one more time for those who want to look at it. Plus, again, deck code will actually be in the description as always. I know some people like following the pictures. Some people just use the deck code. So if you use the deck code, check below for it if you want to import this into your own collection, your own arsenal per se. I will note one more thing before I do end it. This deck, extremely cheap compared to some of the other ones running around right now. I think the only cards that are going to be issues, or at least pricey, are Flame Prince being the only epic card in the deck. Headwood being a legendary, and Zeus being a legendary. Those are the only 3 cards that push a rarity at or higher than epic. Everything else follows in the rare common lineup here, which I think is fantastic. So if you have maybe, say, a deck that you put a lot into and you're like, oh man, I'm kind of low on funds right now, but I have a lot of the extra cards, maybe try plugging this into your arsenal. See if you have the room to build something like this. And it may not be the most competitive deck in the market, but it is fun and has picked up wins here and there. There are some close games I've had which have ended in losses, but again, could have been like coin flipped with the way how close they were. And like I said, they also just win games as well. This is not by any means a joke or a meme deck. It's still a pretty competent deck, just one that's not going to stand up to the various current meta strategies that we're seeing right now emerge in the ladder. So feel free to give it a try. Again, deck code is down below. But that's going to be where we finish it off for today, folks. If you did enjoy the Fire University deck, be sure to let me know your thoughts by leaving the comments down in the comment section below. And yes, I am naming it Fire University. I think that was a great name that I had in the beginning of the video. I'm keeping that. And of course, while you're down there, if you haven't already, be sure to show your support by subscribing to the channel if you're new, and like and share with your friends. Simple actions like that, folks, they go a long way to support the channel, and they're absolutely free to you, no cost whatsoever. And yeah, I would greatly appreciate it if you hung around and had some fun with us. As of course, for those who are in Cards and Castles know, more is coming, more is down the line, so stay tuned for more content. I finally got over the hump of this, so there probably will be some more as well, though I always say that, and we always get like, what, a video a month? It seems a video every 2-3 weeks. I'm trying, we're getting there. But anyways, that's a be it for me, folks. Take care, stay well, and most importantly, stay gaming.